Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third Operation Charlie Fox Contributor Cast. That's right, the third one. As you can already notice, it looks a little different than before. Big thanks to Jan for the beautiful slow motion helicopter splash screen of Angleville going behind me, and big thanks to Linsky for this amazing stream theme music that we have going for Operation Charlie Fox. Hopefully that's going to be heard many times in the future as we continue with these contributor casts, and of course when we actually get underway with Operation Charlie Fox itself. Obviously the stream theme was one of our stretch goals for this tournament. We have raised now a whopping $2,800, as you can see beneath me. That is absolutely amazing. Big, huge thanks to everybody that's contributed. Over on my right, you can see our 10 most recent contributors. Thank you so much to Carolus, Invictus, Robert Michael, Ritza, Hattie, Carolus again, Major Bloodknock, Wastrel, Bergstrand, and Computer Heat for all of your contributions. So far, 996 levels have been purchased on Kotu.org. That puts us only 4 away from 1,000 contributor levels. And we still have 26 days to go before the qualifiers even begin. Or no, not sorry, before registration even opens. So lots of time left to hit even higher stretch goals. Truly incredible support so far from the Kotu community. So a huge thank you to everybody that's contributed. But without further ado, we should jump into today's game. Our contributor that has brought us this game is, of course, Sturmtiger Gaddafi. So he submitted this replay for us to cast, and that's what we're going to do. So let's get the game loaded up. We've got it paused at the 5-second mark, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, go. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this game is going to be Brack and SES Main Tower versus Sturmtiger Great Serge and Sturmtiger Gaddafi. This is a 2v2 clearly on Lierne. Operation Charlie Fox will be a 1v1 event, but for the contributor casts, we're going to be casting whatever the contributors decide to send in. That is their prerogative. So this is going to be a 2v2 on Lierne featuring Gaddafi himself and his clanmate against 2 players with whom I am not familiar. We're going to see double Oster on the left versus mixed allies on the right, and assault. Mechanized assault has been picked right off the bat there. 0 CP commander selection. For the other players, we have assault support, mechanized assault, Jaeger infantry, Rifle Company, Infantry Company, Airborne Company, Terror, Shock Motor, and Lend-Lease. So we're going to see mostly standard commanders from these players, but we'll see a few less seen commanders as well sprinkled in there. So we'll see what they end up choosing to do. The initial squad of Assault Grenadiers heads straight for the North Fuel, chases off those rear echelon troops. They're going to have to look for capturing opportunities elsewhere. And both allied players send their initial infantry squads towards the central fuel to try and get that under control. They will try to hold off some Pios, which are in the capture circle, but an MG-42 set up behind to support will force those riflemen into the building, and conscripts are looking for a flanking opportunity, hugging that north fence. The MG-42 jumps inside the building, and riflemen take that opportunity to try and charge into close range. Machine gun hasn't quite set up in time to prevent this, and a well-executed flank here by both allied players threatens to force the machine gun from the building. But another machine gun has been layered behind it, and those riflemen will be immediately suppressed and forced to retreat, taking heavy damage right there. And the conscript set up in red cover on the north face of this building will probably only be able to do so much before being forced to retreat in turn without support from the American player. More riflemen moving up to try to leapfrog from a building onto the flank of the second MG, but it gets suppressed too quickly. Another squad of conscripts also getting suppressed. And it looks like this push by the Allies is not going very well. Neither of these machine gun teams has even sustained 1 loss. And the Assault Grenadiers working on the north win an engagement against those rear echelon troops. They popped volley fire up there trying to win the engagement against those Assault Grenadiers, but as usual, it wasn't quite enough. Assault Grenadiers win the engagement and rear echelons were forced to retreat, which puts the Axis in control of both fuel points. The majority of the strategic points, and all in all just gives the Axis a huge resource lead here in the early game. 33 fuel coming in for the Axis, 31 munitions. Allies, on the other hand, only 10 fuel and 27 munitions, losing on both the fuel and munitions fronts. They are going to get control of both the large munitions points there in the south, doing so uncontested for now, but if their pushes don't start succeeding a little bit more in the middle, their fuel situation is going to put them in a lot of danger. Squad of Assault Grenadiers overextends itself a little bit and will be forced to retreat. Clearly, Main Tower is going very hard into Assault Grenadiers this game. 3 on the field already, and he has not purchased Tier 1, so Assault Grenadiers will be his main core of infantry. He will not be fielding any Grenadiers at all. But because the MG42 is now fielded out of the headquarters, it does give him the option of at least making machine guns to support his Assault Grenadiers, and he's going to send one up there towards the north field to defend that, with the rest of his infantry supporting his teammate in the center against these coordinated Allied pushes. And the Allies are kind of sending in one squad here and one squad there, and when they get forced to retreat, it significantly weakens any attempt that they might be able to make for the central fuel. Machine guns set up in both of these houses now surrounding the central fuel point, and the squad of Grenadiers will be sent south. Unopposed by anything other than just combat engineers, should be able to get control of the strategic point easily. And the combat engineers are simply forced to retreat.
Our headquarters has been improved. We can now build light mechanized infantry.
Riflemen standing at long range from those machine guns, but it doesn't matter. They're getting pinned down, even in green cover. They're pinned, even at long range. And both of those squads will be forced to retreat. This squad of riflemen is not going to last much longer. That one's also going to have to get out of there. With all of these Allied infantry squads being forced back into the base, a lot of territory is going to fall into Axis control. Not just in the center, but also in the south. Those Grenadiers moving to take control of the munitions uncontested. There's a light harassment attempt heading north. One squad of conscripts from the Soviet player try and get that under control. And the American player has gone Lieutenant tier. There's not a lot of fuel coming in for the Allies, which is why that Lieutenant is so late. Not even going to see combat until around the 6-minute mark, and then he will further delay any light vehicle he can field by getting himself an ambulance. So the M20 or AA half-track, either way, it's not going to be on the field for quite a while, and it's going to just exacerbate this serious fuel disadvantage that the Allies to work with. Meanwhile, Main Tower, taking advantage of the huge amount of fuel income they have, has already gone battle phase 2. Although it looks like while he was teching, he almost lost an Assault Grenadier squad, gets away from the Allied blob just barely in time, retreating with a tiny sliver of health remaining. And because those Riflemen and Lieutenant were so clumped, they walked right into an MG42 and get suppressed hard in that road and getting gunned down. Assault Grenadiers engaging them. Even though they're suppressed, they're still taking losses because they're engaging heavily wounded. None of those squads were full health when the engagement began, so they take their share of losses as well, but I would definitely say that engagement went in favor of the Axis. Still, some conscripts managed to take control of the building here south of the fuel point, and a flamethrower will convince this squad of Assault Grenadiers to make a hasty retreat. They are going to try for a grenade assault, but only one grenade gets tossed before they have to get out of there. The squad risks getting wiped. Conscripts making their way towards the north fuel point will fail in their attempt at that fuel point harassment, thanks to the lone machine gun that's been stationed up there to keep that under Axis control. And the Allies are simply failing to take territory on all fronts, but with the defensive line of the Axis significantly weakened in the center, and now with the Soviet mortar supporting this push, plus an ambulance to support forward reinforcement, the Allies look like they finally stand a chance of getting a fuel point under their control for the first time in the game, and after 8 minutes, that is some very, very badly needed fuel. Tier 3 is up for Main Tower. He will have the fuel for any Tier 3 unit he desires within the next minute or so.
M20, ready for action.
Meanwhile, a machine gun will be forced from the building by mortar fire and supporting infantry. Assault grenadiers move up to try and push back this Allied advance. Assault grenadiers get pinned down by volley fire there in the center. That volley fire actually kicked in before the rear echelon troops took significant damage. They switch targets to a retreating grenadier squad, which gets away only just very barely. If those rear echelon troops had even slightly better accuracy, that could have been a wipe right there. And there's the M20 on the field, hitting the field at 8.5 minutes with an Ostwind in production. That is a late M20, but he's going to try and have the most dramatic impact with it he possibly can. Maybe try and pick up at least this one squad of Assault Grenadiers, if nothing else. He does get it up to 4 kills quite quickly, so it's having a pretty good impact, despite its extremely late arrival. Molotovs have been researched here in the center by Soviet players as well. Tossed one in the building earlier, tossed one on that machine gun just now as well, try and force some retreats. So that will definitely help the Soviet player vie for building control in engagements with the center. Throws another Molotov on this squad of Pyos at the South VP, which has not reacted in any way to the fact that they are on fire. And they're going to die. And they're dead. No reaction. Too busy paying attention to engagements elsewhere, possibly monitoring his machine guns in the central village. M20 making its way towards the north to try and push this machine gun off the fuel point. Is actually taking heavy damage because it still has no armor skirts. So we'll be forced away from that machine gun, at least briefly, as the crew moves to execute some repairs. And all Allied infantry in the middle will be forced to retreat as the Ostwind smashes into the Allied front line. The ambulance knows it's not going to get away in time, so the medics pop out and will retreat. All team weapons, all supporting infantry also forced to retreat. That Ostwind is almost completely uncountered except for that one Soviet field gun. So the shock value that tank had should earn the Axis map control back in the center. And a huge force of infantry is making its way down the road to get all that territory back. G43's upgraded on Grenadiers in the south will indicate that Brack has gone Jaeger infantry, which is a commander that you would probably not expect given his loadout, but he must have at one point felt confident enough in their early lead that he'd be able to get away with going Jaeger infantry and utilize a commander that's very munitions expensive. Ostwind is diving into the U.S. base. It actually tried to make an escape right there, but the M20 blocked its path. So I guess he decided to just dive deep into the base, but clearly it will not win this engagement. Those riflemen have been upgraded with bazookas, and engine damage connects from an anti-tank rifle grenade. That Ostwind is destroyed without inflicting much of any damage on the Allies. And the M20 is immediately destroyed thereafter by Panzerschrecks equipped with Panzer Grenadiers equipped with Panzerschrecks there on the strategic point. So both sides will lose their early vehicle. The Ostwind obviously being the more costly loss, but in this map control situation they almost cost the same in time. M20 arriving only slightly earlier, and certainly a huge amount of fuel left in reserve for the Axis. Brack in particular has 285 fuel in the bank, has not spent any of it. And even after the loss of that Ostwind, there is no sign of Axis map control fading. The Allies are struggling to push their way into the center of the map, and the south is being taken by these G43 Grenadiers and Panzergrens.
The enemy is attempting to steal our sector. Shock troops can now be used to crush the enemy. Here standing by. What do you want, comrade?
Allied advance towards the central fuel looks like it's struggling a little bit. Vet 2 MG42 set up in the building is going to prevent those conscripts from capturing the point. And a mortar will begin laying fire on the structure to try and get the MG42 out of there. The Panzer Grenadiers are on their way to try and screen that mortar away. They will be forced to overextend a little bit if they're going to get that mortar to retreat. They toss a bundle grenade. That's actually aimed at the AT gun. Rifle grenade from the fighting position up there will convince those Panzergrens to get out of there, but not before they inflict serious damage on the Zis field gun, so it will be forced back for repairs. or a reinforcement, but Panzer Grenadiers moving up from the south flank clear the gunner entirely as they're taking control of the strategic point here in the south. A large force of Soviet infantry is on its way to retaliate, though.
Replacements have arrived.
Grenadiers moving up the right flank. They will be forced to retreat there by that Soviet force of infantry with the flamethrower. Panzer Grenadiers move up to try and at least get that mortar out of there to continue screening for the machine guns in the buildings. Bundled grenade will connect, goes off, and the mortar is forced to be dead. It's forced to die. I was gonna say forced to retreat, but then there was nobody left and the mortar is dead. Panzer Grenadiers will get out of there with 2 models remaining. Assault Grenadiers on the central fuel point will not be so lucky. Autocannon shot connects a little too quickly for him to react, and the Assault Grenadiers are wiped. Meanwhile, there in the north, a huge blob of Assault Grenadiers going in on these shock troops, charging into the shock troops at close range. Oh, that grenade plus S-mine cluster. That just dealt devastating damage to that Assault Grenadier blob. Those shock troops took only 1 loss and inflicted, I don't even know, maybe 5 or 6 in return. But the engagement is won just through sheer numbers. Riflemen do not feel comfortable sticking around in that engagement, and Assault Grenadiers will retake control of all territory up here in the north. The MG-42 in the center of the map just got stolen. That was a Vet-2 MG, but a Molotov into the house. Conscripts ran up and stole that, and there was nothing to prevent that from happening. Panzer Grenadiers with Shreks don't have any proper support, and they will be forced to retreat from that engagement as well. The only thing left here in the middle now is a squad of Pyos, and they certainly aren't going to be able to do much. Autocannon is going to move up a little bit, start clearing up this fighting position. It's a munitions cache, actually. I don't know why I said fighting position, but munitions cache is an interesting choice, and it makes sense when he's gone Jaeger infantry, because like I was saying before, it's such a munitions expensive commander, so you can really never have too many munitions as Oster with as Jaeger infantry. Light artillery barrage dropped in the center will prevent capture of the fuel point briefly, and Oster fuel control will continue to be absolutely dominant. And if fuel control looks like it's dominant, just look at munitions income right now. 63 munitions income after the munitions cache was destroyed. That is a lot of munitions that's been coming into the Oster, and it is still coming in. No cutoff by the Allies. Only just now will it be slowed down as the squad of combat engineers makes his way towards the south to grab that munitions point, and a few strategic points will be briefly harassed. It looks like conscripts in the north are about to get chased off, and a huge force of Axis infantry is regrouping in the center to try and make a push back to the fuel point and get it under control. Although charging a large force of infantry straight towards an allied AA half-track generally doesn't work out too well. In this case, it went pretty well. Both Panzer Shreks connected, and then a lucky main gun crit will prevent the autocannon from suppressing that squad of Panzer Grenadiers, but they're taking too much damage from focus fire from surrounding infantry, and a 50 cal arrives to protect as well. So the half-track will get away, and Panzer Grenadiers once again have to retreat back into the base. And if he continues just overextending Panzer Grenadiers and then retreating with 2 models remaining, 1 or 2 models remaining, it's going to get very expensive to maintain that because their reinforced cost is not cheap. And the manpower cost of that shows, because he's now got 450 fuel floating and he doesn't have enough manpower to spend it. Which is bad news, because a machine gun just got wiped in the north and he's taking heavy losses on his assault grenadiers there on the northeast fuel point, all pinned down by a stolen MG-42 right there. Assault grenade toss will force the unit to retreat. One squad of conscripts remains in green cover, trying to force the pin squad to retreat as well. With shock troops available in the north to steal another machine gun and conscripts positioned well in cover to fire on them from the south, it doesn't look like those assault grenadiers are going to be able to hold any of the territory they're taking right now. And it's the Allies' turn to field another scary unit, KV-8, rolling onto the field from the Soviet player who has chosen terror tactics. Once that makes its way towards the right side of the map, the Assault Grenadiers obviously will have no defense against it, and the Axis will have to think of how they're going to counter it. Main tower, having lost an Austrian, has replaced that loss with a Panzer IV, so the Panzer IV should definitely provide an effective weapon against the KV-8. Anti-tank grenade does not penetrate. Panzer IV easily cleans up that squad of conscripts, and the KV-8, rather than working on the north, moves straight towards the central village and is doing massive damage. MG-42 building, wiping it on retreat. Panzer Grenadiers with their Shreks are suppressed because of that well-positioned 50 cal from the American player, so they will not be able to lay very much fire on that KV-8 before being wiped or forced to retreat themselves. And they make possibly a very lucky escape right there. If that KV-8 had been a little bit more aggressive about chasing them down, I don't think that squad would have gotten away. Very lucky Panzer Grenadier squad. The Panzer IV is on its way down the road to try to execute a flank against that KV-8, but it's already been faced north, and an AT gun is waiting for that Panzer IV's advance. Panzer IV walks right into it, needs 2 shots before backing back out to safety. And suddenly the entire map is turning blue. Allies somehow making a miracle comeback right now. In part because of some well-positioned AT guns and team weapon usage, and in part because of the Axis failure to spend their huge fuel reserve. Main tower cranking out 2 Panzer IVs in addition to his initial Austrian, trying to put that fuel to good use. But Brack spending all of his resources just on Panzer, very expensive to reinforce Panzer Grenadiers, Grenadiers with G43s, and not spending a single bit of manpower on tanks, leaving him with 450 fuel in the bank right now. But finally, he will upgrade to Battle Phase 2 and probably Battle Phase 3 immediately thereafter. They can get some Panthers out, if they can get a Broom Bear out, they may be able to turn this situation back around. Allies are taking control of everything in the south, riflemen armed with bazookas, trying to turn this situation back around and get the clock ticking back in Allied favor, because they don't have a whole lot of time. I mean, 200 victory points is not too urgent of a situation, but 300 victory points behind is not a good situation to be in. Only just barely now have the Allies even knocked a single point off the board. Axis up by 300, and the Allies slowly clawing their way back into this game. Both Panzer IVs engaging in the center of the map will prevent the KV-8 from advancing any further than it has. And riflemen equipped with bazookas, even positioned in cover, will probably not be able to engage against those tanks very cost effectively. Assault Grenadiers just retreated through the KV-8. Oh no, they were way overextended. Another miracle escape from 1 HP Axis squad. As those Assault Grenadiers run back into the base. 4 squads of Assault Grenadiers still alive this game, somehow, despite some very near misses. And it's starting to look like they may not have necessarily been the best decision. 2 of them doing pretty okay, or 3 of them. Well, mostly just 2 of them. At 13 and 7. The other Vet 2 squad had only 5 kills, and the Vet 1 squad had only 3. So, or 1. Only had 1 kill. So I think 4 Assault Grenadiers is probably a bit of an overinvestment. He's struggling to make them all work. But he skipped Tier 1, and that's the price that he paid. Panzer IV looking for an opportunity against the AA half-track. It's kind of floundering a little bit in the road. It looks like it might go down right here. There it goes. Panzer IV finishes the job. AA half-track is cleaned up. With that destroyed, that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for the Panzer Grenadiers and other supporting infantry to start charging through the middle again. Getting rid of any suppression sources is very important. There's still a Maxim sitting in the building. However, and I think there's still a 50 cal floating around somewhere. And a stolen MG42. 50 cal is actually covering the feet. Stolen MG42 making its way back towards the central village. Axis attack towards the center just not going well. The Maxim pins down that whole blob of assault grenadiers right there. That's something you never used to see with the AoE suppression changes on the Maxim are just brutal. We're not going to be able to blob those assault grenadiers into Maxims anymore. Soviet bomb run comes down on an MG42 in the road, wipes that out completely. And this Axis push for the center just utterly fails. They didn't have quite enough punch with their armor, and their infantry and team weapons get shredded. So everything will be forced out of the center, and the Allies will maintain control of the fuel point, and they've also been maintaining a presence on the north fuel. There's going to be an MG42 stolen MG defending that for some time now. And I suspect that the 2 squads of assault grenadiers on their way to try and take that point are going to fail if they don't spread out. And they're just blobbing their way up towards the top. If they keep doing that, they're just going to get suppressed and forced to retreat. They need to try and spread out and execute some kind of flank, and they have to spread out very wide. MG42's level of AoE suppression. KV-8 pushes back a harassment attempt south. Those Panzer Grenadiers not going to be able to do anything. Trying to harass solo. And Brack did upgrade Battle Phase 2, but now Battle Phase 3 is not built a Tier 3 structure. That fuel continues to just stack up in the bank, up to 567 fuel right now. And yet his manpower continues to bleed. 4 squads of Panzer Grenadiers on the field. That is not an army that you can reasonably expect to maintain without sacrificing your armored reserves, clearly, or just not fielding any armor at all. Panzer IV dives into the center of the map, forces the shock troops to retreat, but after taking a little bit too much damage from anti-tank grenades, it is forced to pull back to safety away from the captain. And stupid close air support gets called in the center to try and help against these infantry, and it gets the job done quite nicely. Captain, rear echelons, and riflemen all forced to retreat with just a tiny little bit of health remaining. Close air support comes in again. Fortunately, most of it hits the building, and Allied infantry team weapons in the KV-8 don't take too much damage. Axis don't seem to think that they can win this engagement, and they will be forced out of the center. The Allied defense will hold. It will hold, and with 150 victory points remaining, the Allied fuel advantage continues, but the victory points continue to tick against them because they have not taken control of the VPs there in the north. Both Panzer IVs roaming up there to try and make sure the clock continues to tick in favor of the Axis. Panzer IV finds an opportunity against the Vet 2 Maxim. Very close to wiping it right there. Makes a miracle escape. Other Panzer IVs just hovering in the middle. And Assault Grenadiers are on the way to take control of the fuel point and defend the northeast VP, while the other 2 squads make yet another futile push for the center fuel point. Gets suppressed immediately by the stolen MG42 right there, plus a grenade toss wiping one of the 2 squads. Panzer Grenadiers moving up from the left, not experiencing any more success. There's a fighting position with the 50 cal, layered with another 50 cal in front, constantly providing vision and soaking up as much damage as they can. That defense will hold. Panzer IV trying to bleed those conscripts, though they're not being monitored, make it very late. Get away only very narrowly. Can't say the same, however, for all the team weapons holding the line in the north. The Panzer IVs both blasted through, clearing out the field gun, clearing out the MG42. But they expose their rear armor to bazooka fire and field gun fire. Ooh. That's the main gun destroyed turret right there, so they will be forced back to safety, but not before a light artillery barrage gets dropped on those team weapons and at least forces them to back up and move elsewhere. Inflicts a pretty decent amount of damage on the AT gun at least. The Axis are retaking control of everything in the north, and they briefly harass the VP in the south, and Allied map control is suffering once more. Soon there will be only 100 victory points remaining, and the Allies are running out of time to turn the game back in their favor. Panzer Grenadiers reinforcing and healing here in the base. MG42 being queued up. He continues to invest only in manpower solutions. Only in manpower, infantry, team weapon solutions. Where is the tech? 667 fuel in the bank. This is clearly not an accident. This is definitely not unintentional. He went into this game planning to just make nothing but infantry and team weapons. That is the core of his build, that is his strategy, and he's going to try and make it work. I think I disagree. But we'll see how it plays out. And in the meantime, a 4th Panzer IV is on its way to this battlefield. The initial one has 37 kills. It's under Vet 3. It's got the top mount upgrade. It is absolutely shattered Allied infantry every time that it has encountered them, and the more Panzer IVs survive, the more the Allies will struggle to counter them. They need to get some heavier anti-tank on the field. You see 2 Soviet field guns crewed by both players here in the north, but those light artillery barrages are just devastating. Every single time the Axis have trouble dealing with one of those field guns, they say, oh well, we both got access to light artillery barrages, let's just clear that gun out and our tanks will be completely freed up to engage against infantry as they please. Although a bunch of assault grenadiers just walked right into that light artillery barrage, doing it a little prematurely, taking a lot of losses right there. Despite those losses, Panzer IVs look like they will win this engagement. One takes engine damage though, stuck around in that engagement a little too long. He was expecting that field gun to get cleared out sooner, but it's just hanging on with those 2 men remaining. There it goes, finally. Managed to get a few more shots off that main tower wasn't expecting there, and one of his Panzer IVs goes down. It was not his vetted Panzer IV, fortunately. The Vet 3 P4's got 40 kills now and continues this rampage across the north, and all Allied forces have either been killed or forced off the map. It looks like he may be overextending a little bit right here, though. I don't think that he has what it takes to completely clinch the game. I feel that diving into the Allied base at this point is an overly aggressive maneuver, especially when the Allies have such a strong position in the center of the map, and his teammate is struggling to deal with even 1 KV-8. By overextending himself into the base, not only does he deny his teammate much needed support, he also puts his own tanks at risk, and one of them will go down to an easy 8 and a freshly fielded Su-85. He made the exact same mistake with Austrian, and he's doing it again with his Panzer IVs. That tank's not going to get away. In fact, it will be abandoned right outside the Allied base, and that is 100% his own fault. Just handed a tank over to his opponents. That is not good. He is left with only 1 Panzer IV remaining, and his opponents now have not only an Su-85 and an Easy-8, giving Vet 1 practically for free, but also a nice new shiny Panzer IV. And if there were a mechanism by which an Allied comeback were going to be possible this game, that was probably it. But even with the free Panzer IV, the rest of this game is not going to be easy. If Brack were to spend his 700 fuel, there's a decent chance the Allies would be forced to contend with pretty heavy Axis armor of the Tier 4 variety. And they have only 96 victory points remaining with which to exact their marvelous comeback, should it occur. Flamethrower trying to defend victory point there in the south against some advancing Panzer Grenadiers, taking heavy damage. Looks like the Panzer Grenadiers are going to win that engagement. Riflemen retreated a little bit late, but they will get to safety. Panzer Grenadiers made an awkward motion to chase. Light artillery barrage coming down in the center of the map and put serious losses. Mortar gets cleared out again, and that mortar had Vet 2. AT gun only gets out by a very slim margin. The stolen Panzer IV leads the charge in an attack across the north of the map, with EZ8 moving to support, and there is simply nothing available to counter. The very first AT gun that the Axis have even fielded is only just now hitting the map at 32 minutes. AT gun setting up in the trees to try and push the Panzer IV and EZ8 back. EZ8 will pop smoke to prevent the AT gun from firing as it rotates south to engage against these assault grenadiers, making a dangerously late retreat. They will round that corner just barely in time. EZ8 will continue simply picking up team weapons uncountered as a force of Grenadiers and Panzer Grenadiers makes its way towards the center to try to win an engagement for the central fuel point and keep it out of Allied hands. Panzer Grenadiers are not being monitored on the bottom right. Or maybe they are. I don't know why he wouldn't retreat that squad. What is he doing? He dodged the Molotov, but lost the squad entirely to small arms fire there by those conscripts, and a full squad of Panzer Grenadiers goes down. Meanwhile, a squad of shock troops getting very aggressive outside the Axis base in the north and west. Throws a grenade. Does not quite manage to clear out an AT gun, though, before being convinced to retreat by assault grenadiers, and the Panzer IV shows up just to be safe. A huge force of riflemen pops smoke under the cover of EZ8 smoke. Advances straight up the middle in towards the Axis base, clearing out a host of team weapons, a mortar and an AT gun, and puts a Panzer IV in serious danger. Bazooka rounds are firing. EZ8 on the rear, main gun destroyed. But it doesn't look like anything's going to make an aggressive chase maneuver. That Panzer IV parks right there into the carry's position in the Axis base to await some badly needed repairs. Oh! Oh, the irony. Panzer IV just got destroyed on the top left victory point by a Teller mine. Teller mine destroying a Panzer IV, that's not something you see in every round of Company of Heroes 2. KV-8's pulling back to safety. That is a Vet 2 KV-8. If we thought that Vet 3 Panzer IV was doing well with 40 kills, KV-8's not doing bad for itself either. It's up to 31. Vet 2, not quite the same performance as the Panzer IV, but certainly not bad at all, especially considering its primary targets have been Grenadiers and Panzer Grenadiers. Panzer Grenadiers moving up on its flank, unload a volley of Panzer Strikes, bringing it dangerously low. They are suppressed. There's the final volley, and the KV-8 will be destroyed. That last desperate shot right there does connect, and they'll pick up that priority target, but maybe at a devastating cost. EZ8 moving the trade, takes out Grenadiers on the retreat, and Panzer Grenadiers, oh, that long shot. Panzer Grenadiers almost get picked up. Almost get picked up by that shot, but they do get away with just a tiny, tiny sliver of HP remaining. And in the wake of that engagement, a huge force of riflemen has no problem overwhelming what few battered team weapons remain. A Panzer IV is trying to cut them down from range. Pioneers not being monitored in that engagement get melted by those flamethrowers. And the American player, satisfied with the damages inflicted, will make a full retreat from that, despite the fact there are some team weapons laying on the ground he could have probably grabbed for free with his higher health rifle squads. And the amount of Soviet armor on the field is actually starting to grow a little bit, despite a really brutal fuel disadvantage there in the early game. It's quite clear now that the Allies are the ones with the fuel advantage at this point, and they've taken control of both fuel points, and the Soviet player is going to put that to good use. He's now got Tier 4 up, 2 T-34s on the field, in addition to the Su-85. And it's the Axis that are going to have to struggle to find a way to combat an overwhelming force of allied armor rather than the other way around. Stupid close air support gets called in conjunction with an AT gun. That T-34 just gets annihilated. So there's one down. Panzer Grenadiers are being forced to contend with a huge force of riflemen. Captain pops on me. They will charge into close range, unload their bazookas and flamethrowers and such on those Panzer Grenadiers. They have no choice but to retreat. Stupid close air support just wiped a rifle squad, though. Jeez. That was brutal. Suppressed another. It was forced to retreat. Only one squad remains on the front line, and the Panzer Corps will probably be able to clean that up. But not before the AT guns all get cleared out. Clear the way for the T-34-85, and the map just turns more and more blue as the Axis are shoved back into their base. Light attempted fuel harassment there in the north by an fresh assault grenade squad, doing that very late into the game. Still no transition into grenadiers or anything. T-34 will move towards the north to clear them up, and will obviously have no problem doing so. But look at this, finally, 38 minutes into the game, finally, Brack has spent some fuel, he's made it to tier 4, and a Panther is on the field. Maybe, if he exhausts what remains of his fuel reserves, he can get out a significant force of armor strong enough to try and break the Axis out of this very dangerous containment. They have a huge fuel lead, a huge victory point lead, but slowly things are turning back around. 86 victory points remain for the Allies as they set up a triple cap against their opponents. And those victory points are going to level out very soon if the Axis don't find a way to turn this situation around. Panther moves to engage in the center, but without much support, he's simply taking long shots at the EZA, trying to look for opportunities, trying to find a way to take that tank out without exposing itself to too much danger. It does let a rifle squad get behind it and suffers engine damage from an AT grenade right there. Could be bad news. There's an AT gun firing on it from the middle, but the AT gun is cleared by supporting assault grenadiers. The squad of riflemen continues to harass it with its one bazooka, though. A few lucky bazooka penetrations, and we could see that Panther going down already. It has only a tiny bit of HP left. Something has got to arrive to protect. Or those riflemen could just give up the chase, I guess. They switch targets to these fresh grenadiers. It looks like they're gonna let that Panther get away this time. But clearly that Panther is just maybe not even the right tool for this situation. They're up against a lot of overwhelming Allied infantry, not quite as many Allied tanks, and that Panther does not do too much, especially without the top-mount machine gun, and that's going to soak up a lot of repair power and time for the Axis in exchange for having accomplished basically nothing. And the battle for the North VP isn't going much better. Stolen MG-42 setup. Lots of Allied infantry available to prevent any counterattack. Main tower has 200 fuel in the bank with no manpower whatsoever. He's probably not entirely sure what would be the best option at this point. Oh, that bomb run! Oh no, devastating bomb run on those retreating assault grenadiers. Clears out all team weapons, wipes all infantry squads. And that bomb run marks the victory points becoming almost completely even. Is now 112 victory points for the Axis to 86 for the Allies, and the Axis show no sign of being able to recover from their extremely dire situation. They're behind for infantry, they're behind for armor. Just look at the pop cap situation right now, 41 and 34 to 96 and 67. How has it come to this? The Axis were in an indomitable position. Absolutely held the entire map. Looked like victory was completely assured. But it just goes to show how incredibly dangerous it is to overextend your armor in this game. Diving that Ostwind, diving those two Panzer IVs into the Allied base, didn't trade very effectively, actually handed a tank over to the enemy, and look at the consequences of those actions. The map is now completely blue. Axis have fallen behind for victory points. They are triple capped, and it's looking like this is going to be the game. This Panther is the last desperate hope the Axis have for some kind of miracle comeback. But with a Vet 3 Easy 8 on the field, and an endless tide of Soviet Tier 4 as well behind that. It looks like that 600 fuel that Brack managed to stockpile this game is just going to go completely to waste. Easy 8 makes its way up to 27 kills at Vet 3, in addition to engaging hopefully against lots of Axis army. Unfortunately, the KV-8 died, so we don't know exactly how many kills that one had. The fresh one's gonna kill, that one's only got 4. T-34 is hunted and destroyed by the Panther over here on the right side. I don't think it's going to be enough. In fact, I think that Panther getting that aggressive against the T-34 is going to cost him this tank. Easy 8, Vet 3 going in at close range will finish the Panther off. And it's destroyed. A desperate attempt for the victory point in the south is also on the verge of imminent failure, and there you have it. The victory points have run out. That's going to be the game. GG. Allies win. Okay, so that was the third contributor cast. That was a pretty fun game to watch. I certainly enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Again, I want to give extra special thanks to everybody that has contributed to Operation Charlie Fox to make it such an overwhelming and astounding success, and I hope that the contributions will continue. I'm looking forward to the next contributor cast. Keep your eyes open for that. It will be coming soon, of course. Special thanks to Jen for the beautiful background behind me. Special thanks to Linsky for the wonderful stream theme. And of course, extra special thanks to Emmy Polizavunk for providing excellent observer and camera work during this cast behind the scenes. So that's going to conclude this Operation Charlie Fox contributor cast, but definitely keep your eyes open for the next one, and I will see you there.